2, 1, 1, 0.
This is AENN, American Exceptionalism News Network.
They're doing it all through back doors. Get my drift here? And this has been a plan that's been in action for a long time. This is what the thing is about totalitarians. The second one down here is that it's a process. It's more like what's called Fabian socialism. It's the creep of this type of governance system. Now, the interesting thing is when you make a comparison between nationalism or Nazism, and you make a comparison between communism and Islam, it's almost identical. You'll see all throughout the stream of totalitarianism, it's all identical. That's why I call them the totalitarians. You can see a couple of the actors down there. And of course, these are the deaths that have been accumulated. 40 million with China, 60 million with Stalin, and 20 plus million with Adolf Hitler in the last century. This is a real game. And these guys are back. I want you to look at that for a minute. These characters are back. And they mean business. And they have an affiliate right now. His name is President Barack Hussein Obama. Now, how many dots did I just connect for people out there who have felt that? Nobody's ever said it, but you felt it. And you'll see why this is the way it is. These are some of the things. First of all, they came in when Hitler came in and started out with healthcare, right? Then he started with education, military, and so it just goes on and on. But this statement down here is kind of interesting. This is what he said about education. My program for educating youth is hard. Weakness must be hammered away. In my castles of the Teutonic Order, a new youth will grow up before which the world will tremble. I want a brutal, domineering, fearless, and cruel youth. Youth must be all that. It must bear pain. There must be nothing weak and gentle about it. The free, splendid beast of prey must once again flash from its eyes. That is how I will eradicate thousands of years of human domestication, which, by the way, is a tenet in Agenda 21. That is how I will create the new order. Almost sounds like the new world order, doesn't it? That's who we're playing with. And we're playing with these characters too. This is basically you can see the Muslim lands here. Muslims basically are broken into the Shia and Sunnis, okay? And there are two divisions. How many have been over there and been in combat or whatever? Any veterans that have been over there and understand all this? Help everybody else out because I'm going to just go right across this. But there's two major aspects, the Sunnis and the Shia. Shia, Persian, okay? Sunni, Moorish. Back in the day, you had these two big empires, the Persian and the Moorish empires, and they did battle. The Sunni Muslims adhere really to, especially Al-Qaeda and so on, adhere strictly to Sharia law, the strict tenets of Sharia law. That's where you have the beheadings, the burqas, and all that. That's the Muslim Brotherhood. These are some of the affiliates: Hamas, Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, and Hezbollah for the Shia. There's been a blending that's gone on because in 1928, the Muslim Brotherhood was formed by a guy by the name of Habana. And by 1933, he was teamed up with a guy by the name of Adolf Hitler. And that's how they started together. And they've been together ever since. The Muslim Brotherhood and the Nazis have been together ever since 1933. Now, I was told something when I went to East Germany by the State Department in 1992. They said, one, you're crazy to go alone. But two, remember that just because the wall fell or the Second World War ended, things didn't change for those people. They're still doing the same things. They still have the same belief systems. That's what happened in World War II. This is the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, who was part of the Muslim Brotherhood. And this guy right here was the guy who started the Holocaust. He's the mastermind behind the Holocaust. Now, how many knew that before? Heard that? Not many. In fact, I challenge you to go out tonight and look up the origins of the Muslim Brotherhood and see how many of these pictures you can pull off the internet. They're far and few between now. How about this one? This is Iran. They're little Nazi groups. By the way, in Persia at the time in the 1930s, they were so infatuated with Hitler, they decided to change the name of the country to Iran, which means the lands of Aryans. Okay, now are we starting to kind of pick up speed here? And you kind of getting it? Serving in the Nazi army in World War II, Sunnis. Tens of thousands of them held off the Russians or the Soviets in the Balkans. This guy right here, if you want a real good book to understand this, his name is Peter Levenda. I call him a friend now because in 1992 I went to the Führer bunker where Adolf Hitler had been so-called killed. And I was caught by the fact that when I was leaving and I was talking to this guy I thought was a radical. His name was Christoph Neubauer. And I said to him, okay, well, where's Adolf Hitler? Where'd they actually find his body? Because we're standing right on the entrance. He says, over there by this stack and pack housing, actually. And I said, okay. And I turned away and he says, but Adolf Hitler escaped. Sure, right. Okay. So in about 4 years ago, time flies, almost 2011, I'd just gone to bed and I had the radio on and I'm kind of trying to sleep, but I can't sleep, one of those kind of things. And all of a sudden I pick up Coast to Coast. You know how that thing goes. It's like, where's that coming from? And all of a sudden it's an interview with George Norrie and Peter Levenda. And I'm sitting there going, Peter Levenda, wow. And he's talking about the rat line and all the Nazis. And all of a sudden he starts talking about places I've been to in East Germany and Germany. And I'm going, wow, this is pretty fascinating. So I jump up out of bed and I turn up the volume. And for 2.5 hours, I sat there and listened to him with his dissertation about his book. And his conclusion was that Adolf Hitler got out. And not only that, but he had proof because he was actively being hunted by J. Edgar Hoover. And the information had not gotten out until, not a FOIA request, but after 50 years after his death, the records came out and he had access to those records. Since then, Jerome Corsi has come out with almost identical information which substantiates the fact that he did escape. Now, you can believe me or not, I just know that what did happen, and that is shortly after World War II, you had a lot of the Nazis who left Germany, and where did they go? How many say South America? Most of them went to Indonesia and Cairo, the Middle East. And they formed up with a bigger group, made a bigger group called the Muslim Brotherhood. The same Muslim Brotherhood that's there today. So you get the feeling that like history is repeating itself from the 30s to now. You might want to connect that dot because that's the ideology that's driving all this stuff. That's the ideology. That is sheer totalitarianism. I don't care if it's communism, if it's National Socialism, or if it's radical Islam. That's the ideology. It's all the same. That's the enemy we're fighting. They just have logistical differences. In the United States, they've been here actively for around 30, 40 years. They actually have a playbook that they're following called the Project. And it's how they're going to take over the United States and destroy America and rule the world. How many have ever heard of that before, the Project? Okay, they are actually doing the Project. They're aggressively at play with this. A couple of things. Muslim Student Association, they've come into the schools and the colleges and the universities, have been well funded and so on. And that's why these colleges are kind of erupting right now. And a lot of people of big note have been presidents of the Muslim Student Association at their colleges and universities. One of them is a woman by the name of Abedin. Ever heard of her? Anthony Weiner's wife. Or is it the other way around? Anyway, she has quite an interesting history in the Muslim Brotherhood. She was president of her association in college. This is God bless Hitler. That's the mentality there. But plays a special role in history, especially when it comes to Benghazi. Do you think somebody who's so closely tied to the Muslim Brotherhood like she is to Hillary Clinton might have an influence on Hillary Clinton in her decision making? See, Abedin's brother is a terrorist in London. Her dad was the president of the Muslim Brotherhood worldwide, and her mother is still the president of the Muslim Sisterhood. Hello? Hillary, are you there?